let's talk about the transition first. And I don't think this is anything that is unique with me. I think Black people in general, our best ability is our ability to adapt. Okay, you can put Black people anywhere, okay, and we're going to find a way to make it do what it do. Okay, right. So, whether it been Iowa, whether, I was committed to Tulane in New Orleans, whether it been Tulane, I was going to find a way, regardless of the environment that I was in. For me, from a cultural standpoint, the transition really wasn't from a social standpoint, it really wasn't that extreme for me. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to Show Your Receipts, where we believe if you can see it, you can be it. Receipts are evidence or proof that something has occurred. Our guests are evidence that Black excellence is alive and well. They will be sharing their receipts on how they've been able to accomplish so much in their life. I'm your host, Tony Jackson. Let's get started. Welcome to Show Your Receipts, where we believe if you can see it, you can be it. I am super excited to introduce our guest today. This is a brother from another brother from another mother, Mr. Kelvin Bell. Kelvin is a former member of the University of Iowa football team. He is in his 6th year as Iowa's defensive line coach. Coach Bell was named recruiting coordinator and defensive assistant coach in February 2016. Bell also held the position of director of on-campus recruiting for 2 years. He served as graduate assistant for 2 years, assisting with special teams. Throughout his coaching stint at Iowa, Bell has been involved in all aspects of prospect identification, working with the coaching staff at off-campus recruiting efforts, and coordinating all aspects of on-campus recruiting activities. During his time at Iowa, Coach Bell interned with 4 NFL organizations, including the Minnesota Vikings, the New York Giants, the Miami Dolphins, and the Cincinnati Bengals as part of the Bill Walsh Minority Coaching Fellowship. Before coaching at Iowa, Coach Bell also held coaching positions at Wayne State College, Cornell College, Trinity International University, and Regina High School in Iowa City. In all of his coaching stops, Coach Bell's impact has been felt, resulting in several All-Americans, championships won, and NFL players drafted into the NFL. Bell earned his bachelor's degree in mathematics with a computer science concentration from the University of Iowa in 2005. He earned his master's degree in sports management in 2014. Bell is a native of Olive Branch, Mississippi. His wife's name is Natalie, and we have him here today. Big Bell, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Tony, I'm excited, man. I appreciate you. So proud of what you're doing, and I'm humbled that you asked me to come on. Just ready to talk, man. Share my story, share my experience, and hopefully I can inspire someone else to believe that they can achieve the same thing, if not greater than what I've done.
Bill, let's jump right into it because, clearly you and I go way back. We were part of the same recruiting class at the University of Iowa, 2000. Yeah, 2000, Tony. Class of 2000. Man, it's crazy how time flies. It's crazy. It's like back in those days when we were first meeting as kids, we didn't necessarily know what the future had in store for us. But here you are, the successful college football coach. Talk to me about what it's like to be a football coach in major college football. What was that like for you? How did you make that decision to go from playing the game to now coaching the game?
But I don't know if we got enough time to really talk about all of the time, but I can tell you this much. Coaching it's important to me. It's near and dear to me because of the platform that it allows me to have. The role of coach, sometimes kids listen to coach before they listen to mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And that's really the reason. That's why I always say coaching chose me. Mm-hmm. I love the impact that I made on young people. That was never lost on me. And it provided me with the best opportunity through the game that I love to be able to impact and mentor young people. Like you said, I got my degree in computer science and mathematics. My goal, just like all of us when we came to college in the class of 2000, was to play in the NFL. That was my goal. That was what was going to happen. I put all my eggs in that basket. I got my degree in computer science and mathematics at the urging of my mother, who wanted me to be Dwayne Wayne from Different World. Like I started out, yeah, with the glasses. I started out in engineering, and engineering is a discipline. It's a discipline, and you got to have your priorities in order: school, football, and then social life. And sometimes mine were out of whack. So engineering came in there, chewed me up, spit me out. But I had enough classes taken to go ahead and finish that degree in computer science and mathematics. So, to going back to getting into coaching, man. So the whole story, my football career ended a lot earlier than yours did. And that's part of the thing that is going to happen to everybody. At some point in time, the helmet's going to come off. Some point in time, the cleats are going to come off. And what's next? What's your next plan? So that for me, unfortunately, happened going into my junior year at Iowa. I had to medically retire. And therefore, I had to pivot from that goal of playing in the NFL to, okay, what's next? And it was not easy. It was a struggle. I had struggled with my identity. I had lost a parent during that time. My father had passed away. There was a lot of things that were going on in terms of being a young black man from Mississippi. Now I'm in Iowa City, Iowa. And what I came there to do, I can't do anymore. So I had to make the decision, am I going to evolve or am I going to dissolve? And if it wasn't for the people around me, the Fred Mims of the world, the Marvin Sims of the world, the people that I could rely on to help me with that transition, boy, I don't know that I would have ever made it. But that's why I got into coaching. That's why I think it's important for me to be coaching here at Iowa, because a lot of these young men, our footsteps, your footsteps, my footsteps, they're already in front of these young men. All they got to do is just be set and guided on the right path. And I think that's what I'm here to do through the game of football. Okay, don't get it twisted. Football is the love. Football is the bait. That's what kids are here to do. But while I have their attention, I'm going to be pouring life into them, trying to give them the same things that I needed to hear when I was their age.
Wow. There's so much there, so much to unpack. You shared a lot right there, man. Yeah, let's go back, because talk to me about the mentality. So many times it's so difficult for us as players, whether African-American or not, but it's so difficult for us who set out on this path of athletics at such a young age to ever make that transition. And here you are, you are in a very unique situation. I appreciate your level of humility. You share your story, but one thing I will say is, of that recruiting class of 2000, it wasn't too many of us that graduated with a degree in mathematics or computer science. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Intellectually, you always had that student mentality. You loved the game, but you were always a student, and you were coming to school to also be a student. Talk to me about the role that it played in the initial classes that you decided to start taking and the track that you were on, and how that gave you the flexibility to now make a transition and go to do something else. Because you clearly were not just 1,000% only football. You were thinking on the intellectual side as well.
Tony, I can remember when I enrolled in classes that someone went through that orientation, and I was proud, man. I was in general chemistry. I was in engineering 1 and 2. I was in calculus 1. This is all my 14 hours I was taking my freshman year. And I remember showing my schedule, all proud, showing my schedule to an upperclassman, Anthony Heron. If you remember big Anthony Heron. I showed my schedule to Anthony Heron, and he looked at me and said, "Boy, are you trying to graduate? Are you trying to graduate?" And I'm like, well, of course. I just think that a lot of times academics get put on the back burner once you get to college, especially on an athletic scholarship. We were fortunate enough here at Iowa where if you wanted to take challenging courses, the support was there in terms of in terms of tutors and learning assistants and structure and things and whatnot. The support was there to help you if you wanted to do it. But if you wanted to take the less rigorous route, no one was going to stop you from doing that either. Because the name of the game when you get to this level is, especially the scholarship is no good if you're not eligible. If you're not academically eligible, I don't care how good you are at football. The money's not going to come. You're not going to be able to play. And if you can't play, then you can forget about going to the NFL. Like one hand washes the other. But I knew I had an understanding that I knew I wanted to. Football wasn't going to last forever for me. Okay. Yes, you want to go to the NFL, you want to make the multi-millions, but you're still going to have to be able to secure some type of gainful employment once it was over. And this was my opportunity. I knew that earning my degree at Iowa would earn me more money over time than ever playing. John Thompson, the head coach at Georgetown, used to say, more money's made sitting down than standing up. Okay. I believe that. So I just wanted to make sure that I did everything in my power to get that degree, regardless of how good a football player I ever was. Ultimately, I wanted to be the best, but I knew school was important. And my position coach, Coach Aiken stressed that with me as well. Like, hey, Bell, you're here to get a degree. You know, don't care if you ever play. Of course, we want you to play. But what success looks like for our young men at Iowa is walking across that stage for graduation. Okay. Not necessarily first-round draft pick and a long NFL career, but if you come here and you graduate coming from wherever you come from, I consider that a success.
Absolutely. Man, I'd be remiss if I didn't backtrack here. You've named some GOATs. Yeah. You've named some Iowa GOATs. Marvin Sims and Fred Mims and Coach Ron Aiken. We were very, very blessed. Coach Jackson. We were very blessed to have role models there, people that we could look up to, and people who encouraged us in the academic realm. Definitely shout out to all of those individuals, and I'm sure I'm missing more as well.
I want to say this, those names they're near and dear to me and a lot of other young men that went to school here. And I think that, especially with my role now here as a coach, and then the other coaches that we have here on staff, names that you know, LeVar Woods, Abdul Hodge, Liddell Betts, Jason Manson, and a player development role, Ray Braithwaite down in the weight room. It's representation is important. Okay. It's important. And so when you're recruiting and you're trying to attract young men of color here to Iowa City, it is important that they see people who look like them, who've already run that race. Okay. Now, we're here at a coaching level doing it. I think that's important. I'd like to see it on an administrative level because, Fred Mims retired here in 2015. Maybe 2014, okay, and he was replaced by Liz Tovar. But from a male aspect, I think it would be critical to see more people who look like me in an administrative role, because I think that's where the real decisions are being made, right? That's where the real strings are being pulled. So, yeah, those guys are on the Mount Rushmore of Iowa for me. Wouldn't have made it through if it wasn't for them, and I'm sure a lot of other men are like that too. Wouldn't have made it through if it wasn't for Fred Mims and Marvin Sims.
You mentioned another one, Liz Tovar. She was actually a Show Your Receipts alumni. Shout out to Liz Tovar. Yeah. You mentioned another thing, too, a second ago in regards to, being a black man coming from Olive Branch, Mississippi.
Yes.
And then finding yourself on campus in Iowa City. I'm not exactly sure what the background and the makeup was like for you in Olive Branch, but tell me about what was that transition like? Coming from Olive Branch, Mississippi, you're a standout ball player there. And you find yourself, next thing you know, in a cold winter up in Iowa City. How was that transition for you? How were you able to make that transition?
Let's talk about the transition first. And I don't think this is anything that is unique with me. I think Black people in general, our best ability is our ability to adapt. Okay, you can put Black people anywhere, okay, and we're going to find a way to make it do what it do. Right. So, whether it had been Iowa, whether, I was committed to Tulane in New Orleans, whether it had been Tulane, I was going to find a way, regardless of the environment that I was in. For me, from a cultural standpoint, the transition really wasn't from a social standpoint, it really wasn't that extreme for me. Olive Branch, at the time when I was growing up, was a majority white school. If you want to call it a PWI, it was a PWI of high school. I went to school with majority white people. So coming to Iowa, really, I thought Iowa was very diverse from the standpoint of, for an Olive Branch, there was Black and there was white, and you better be choosing which side you on, okay? But when I first got to Iowa City, I was able to see Asian people, Korean, Indian, Hindu, all of these different shades of brown. And I'm like, my natural thing is, well, what is he? What is he? Because coming from Mississippi, it was white and Black. Okay, so I had to learn that there was a lot more in terms of culture and a lot more in terms of ethnicities than just your check Caucasian and check Black box that I was used to for the prior 17 years. I think the one big thing that was hard for me, obviously, was the weather. The weather was a transition because it's a different type of cold, snow, ice, no sun for days at a time. Like, that's a change. And that can mess with your mentals. When you're in Dorm Slater Hall, you're in Hillcrest Hall,
Yeah.
Sun's not shining, man. It's hard to motivate yourself to get up and do the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
Quite honest. But we did it. I don't just say me. We. It was a group of us, man. That way, hey, we carried the torch. We carried the torch, or continued to carry the torch from the brothers that done it before us, for sure.
Let's talk college football and just college coaching in general. For somebody who may be watching who doesn't know about college football or just what goes on behind it, talk to me about, can you give us a front row seat on what it's like to be a college football coach? What are the skill sets that are required to succeed in this capacity? I ask this question because I know it's a lot of people who look like us. We grow up with this passion and this desire to perform, to be football players, to be basketball players. And a lot of us, I didn't know anybody. And I know I didn't grow up thinking, maybe one day I want to be a coach. And so oftentimes the question is, what is it behind it? Do you have to be a former good player to be a coach? Do you just have to love the game? What are the skill sets that are required to succeed and thrive as a college football coach?
That's a good question, man. And Tony, there's those levels to this. I can say this: I'm in a perfect spot of Iowa, and I work for the right person in Kirk Ferentz, the head coach, because my skill set and the things that I excel at are actually things that he believes in. I think number one, if you want to be an effective college football coach, you need to be able to communicate and connect with a number of different people, with everybody. To me, coaching is teaching. Okay. It's not so much about what you know as a former player or a coach. How can you effectively communicate that information to your young people so that they can digest it and then go out and perform with confidence? Your ability to do that, your ability to take complex tasks and break them down in terms of communication in simple form, concise, simple form for them to understand and have them perform, that right there in terms of the teaching aspect is, I think that's the biggest part of coaching. And I think sometimes as the game continues to evolve and more money is being made, I think that is being put on the back burner. In the back burner to this. Number two, you have to be at the college level, this level, you have to be able to recruit. You have to be able to attract young people. And that's the part that I didn't know about, Tone. And that's the part I told myself when I was in college, I would never get into a sales job. I'm a horrible salesman. Okay. But when you talk about being able to attract recruits, when you talk about being able to go out and recruit, it's sales. That's what it is. All of the most effective sales tactics, that's what you're using in order to convince these young people to choose Iowa. Okay. It's not like choose Ohio. Your grandma's going to choose Ohio State. Okay. You know, your auntie's going to choose Michigan. They know about those schools. You got to really sell it. Okay. To go get someone who's not from Iowa and convince them to come to Iowa. You really have to sell that. And for me, the reason why it's perfect for me is I'm just selling my experience here. I'm selling the good, the bad, and the ugly of my time here at Iowa City. And I'm being as candid and as transparent as I can be. I'm not sugarcoating it. And my receipts is that I've been here. I mean, you said I've been coaching the defensive line here for 6 years. I've been here 12 years total. 12 years on staff, another 3 years as a player. Okay, so when I tell you about Iowa City, I'm not asking this guy over here, that guy. I'm telling you the facts of what I know. And I've seen this place evolve from what it was when I was in college to what it is now. And I think that is worth its weight in gold in terms of, if you're trying to make a decision, the best decision, then you need to hear from a guy who's already done it and done it there. Because so many times college coaches move around, they change polos 2 and 3 times every 2 and 3 years. Well, what are you really selling? How well do you really know the town and the school that you're working for? And what are you telling that kid, you know? So I think number one, communication and teaching is paramount. And then number two, you have to be a guy who can attract and recruit young people, sell the vision of the head coach, sell the mission and the vision of the university. You put those two things together, you're well on your way towards becoming a college football coach at the Power 5 level, or Power 4 now, as we know it.
Absolutely. So what is it, I want to dig into some of the things you said, what is it that the average person may not know who's not who doesn't have the experience of coaching college football or even playing college football at a high level, what is it that they may have misconstrued or they don't understand about being a coach and what it kind of entails to be a coach? Because just from the outside looking in, it looks like, like the point that you just made about the importance of sales and recruiting. That's something that I never truly thought about. And so if a person was considering or thinking about coaching at a high level, what are some of the things that they may not necessarily off the top see, but that is a very vital part of being a coach?
Number one is the time commitment. It's nothing like a 12-hour day is a short day. Okay. Mm-hmm. There are no weekends. There's no Saturday and Sunday off. You're working, you're on call, you're working every single day. You're in the facility every single day. And if you're not in the facility, you're probably on a plane or in a car driving or traveling to go recruit prospects. The time commitment is something that a lot of people do not understand. And college coaches are paid handsomely. Do not get me wrong. The money is very good. But if you wanted to break it down to a by hour basis, okay, now we're getting into like, this is now you get into some manageable numbers now when you look at the hours that are put in, not only during the season, but in the out of season as well. I have people ask me, so what do you guys do in the off season? The off season is when there's no football being played on TV. That's what the off season is to you or to the fans. The recruiting is year round. The work that you're doing in terms of identification of prospects, the vetting of those prospects, the travel to go see those prospects, all surrounded by the rules of the NCAA when they allow us times when we can and can't be off campus. Those things, you can't put a clock on that. You can't watch the clock on that. Those things happen year round, day by day, hour by hour. Coach Ferentz gives me the month of July. We have the month of July for our staff that we have to take vacation. Think about that. I mean, that's 1 month. And after that month's over, there is no weekends. There is no Saturday. There is no Sunday. Every day we are working. That is through your Thanksgiving holiday. That is through your Christmas holiday. That is through your New Year's holiday. That is all the other holidays you want to put. The only one we get to do is 4th of July because we have it off. Other than that, you're at work. And you think about the stress that puts on your family, okay? Mom and, a wife, kid, whatever. They're used to having daddy home. They're used to being around. No, you don't have that type of access with them. You take the time that you can, but other than that, you have to have an understanding that the nature of the work requires you to be present. And there's a lot of other people that would love to have your job. Okay? Right. So don't think that you're irreplaceable. There's a lot of people that would love to have your job. So being available has to be your best ability as a coach.
Availability is the number one ability.
Yes, sir.
That actually makes me think about the fact that, right now, this is a special and unique moment in time. I mean, the University of Iowa program with the continuous tenure of Coach Ferentz is historical. Some may argue that this may never happen again. The continued success, winning in the beginning, winning in the middle, still winning, continuous continuity of one coach. Coach Ferentz could be argued to be one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. Talk to me about what you've learned under his tenure. And I ask you this question because I feel like I still operate today on some of the principles that I learned from Coach Ferentz. I remember hearing him say before, I can't remember who he was talking to, but someone asked him about his coaching style, his leadership philosophy. And he said, I coach the coaches and the coaches coach the players. That is literally a thought process and ideology that you could go to some of the top business schools in America and study management and leadership. And that almost seems like a thought process that will be pulled from the business and academic world. So that's something that I kind of use today in our businesses to really think from a leadership standpoint of empowering people and delegating and empowering people in our organizations. Talk to me about what other principles that you've learned from working so closely with him over the last, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, well, first off, the Coach Ferentz, I remember this is a long time ago. I got off a plane in Iowa City, and a longtime track coach, first black track coach in Iowa City, a guy by the name of Ted Wheeler, he's since passed away. He told me, I got off the plane up in Cedar Rapids Airport, and he stopped me because I had my little Alamo Bowl jacket on. You know, we played in Alamo Bowl. So he stopped me and said, asked me if I played football. I said, yeah. And he said, well, Coach Ferentz is a good man. He said, he's an honest man in a dishonest profession. He told me that at 19. He told me that at 19 years old, and I still remember that. One thing I can say about Coach is extremely fair. Okay? He's extremely fair. And doesn't mean he treats everybody the same.
Right.
But he's fair in how he goes about what he asks our guys to do. One thing I can say about Coach believes that people develop. If they're willing to work, if they're willing to come in with a good attitude, pay attention to the small details, give an honest day's work, and then if they're honest about what they're seeing in terms of being critical of themselves, he believes that they will improve. He believes that about young people. And that's nothing more evident than myself. I think about, him hiring me into this program. I didn't have a resume that warranted being hired here as a Power 5 defensive line coach. If you look at, you said I came from Wayne State, I came from Trinity International University, Cornell, because these are small schools. I didn't come here from USC. Okay, I didn't come here from Florida State. This is the biggest stage that I've ever been on, but I think he believed that I could develop into a viable coach at this level because I was willing to work. He saw something in me that a lot of other people didn't see, and from the standpoint of coaching the coaches and coaching the coach, he does it. He lets us coach our guys. He's not a micromanager. He lets us do his thing, but he trusts us to press and carry his message on through the players. Okay. So we need to make sure that we're listening to him. Our job as an assistant coach is to deliver his message. Okay. We all have our own delivery, our style of delivery, but it needs to be the overarching message that he's trying to reinforce. He's a patient guy. Okay. And he's a consistent guy. Okay. And consistency is not sexy. Okay. But consistency is what sustains. You talked about 25 years he's been here. And of those 25 years, okay, I think he's had 4 losing seasons. It was 1999 was a losing season. 2000 was a losing season. Okay, 2007 was a losing season. 2012 was a losing. So it's 4 losing seasons out of 25 years.
Wow.
That is unheard of. Okay. And that type of consistency is what's allowed him to be here. That's what's allowed him to stay as long as he had. And I don't lose sight of that. In terms of, it's not just consistent in winning, but he's consistent in his attitude. He's consistent in his expectations. Okay, he's consistent in his behavior and the way that he treats people. So as an employee, I come in every day knowing what to expect. Okay, and when I can do that, I can rest my head on the pillow at night and rest assured that I know what to expect when I walk into work tomorrow. And a lot of people don't have it like that. Okay, there's a lot of people that walk into work on eggshells, wanting to know, when's this hat going to drop? When's this ball going to drop? That doesn't happen here at Iowa, and that's something that has kept me here for so long. I have a lot of friends in the coaching profession that are like, at Iowa, stay there. You work for a good man, stay there. Because we've all had opportunities to leave, whether it be other colleges or whether it be the NFL. But you can't. This type of consistency is what I crave. Okay, and as long as I have it, I'm more than content being here.
Absolutely. You just mentioned something in regards to having the ability to leave and go to other places. When you start talking about leadership, they say, what does the Bible say? To be the leader of these, you must be the least of these and the servant to all. And you shared something with me in regards to Coach Ferentz attempting to serve you and set you up for other opportunities and give you a tap on the shoulder saying that someone was going to give you a call from the NFL. Would you mind sharing with me a little bit of that story?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was in February. It was just this past February. Coach Ferentz came down to my office and I came in, shut the door and let me know that the defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, was going to give me a call from the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm like, for what? That's what I'm thinking. Well, he had reached out to him and wanted to know, gauge my interest on becoming the defensive line coach up there in Minnesota. And that meant a lot for Coach Ferentz to bring that to me. That was not something that I went and searched out on my own. And really, I'm trying to operate I operate with my head down. I just go to work. You do a good job and what comes to you. But I think for him for Mr. Flores to go through those channels, to reach out to Kirk and then Kirk to reach out to me, boy, it really meant a lot to me for a coach to do that and to follow up and to think enough of me to recommend me for that position. Ultimately, I did not end up taking that job, but just getting the recommendation lets me know, number one, my work's being seen. Okay. I don't have to show it. I don't have to flash it around. My work's being seen. There are people that see what I'm doing. And number two, the guy who I work for respects me enough to recommend me for such an honorable position.
I definitely want to give you your flowers, because you did mention one thing. You said that Coach Ferentz is consistent.
Yes.
And he's fair. Yes. And so the fact that he kept those channels open for you to be able to potentially make that connection with other NFL teams, it shows that you are putting in the work.
Yes.
And you are shining. So hats off to you, my brother. Keep doing your thing, man. I definitely want to switch gears here and really talk about the early years of Kelvin Bell. And I'm excited about this because these are things that I don't really know about. My first question is, tell me about, what do I need to understand about the young Kelvin Bell to have a better understanding of the man that you are today? What do I need to understand about what you were like as a little kid growing up? Were you the kid who was like obsessed with football all the time? Were you just played a lot of sports? Were you academically inclined at a young age? Tell me about who you were as a little kid that would give me a better understanding of the man that I'm talking to right now.
Okay, Tony, that's a real good question, man, and a lot to look at. Number one, I'll say this. The young Kelvin Bell only had one goal in mind, and that was to make mama proud. That's the only thing I wanted to do. I'm a product of a single-parent home. My parents got divorced when I was young in the second grade, and I never really saw or got to be around my dad that much. I knew who he was. I knew where he was, but it wasn't like we saw him all the time. So single-parent home, watching mama go through what she went through in terms of a failed marriage, moving in with our grandparents, with my grandmother, moving from Holly Springs, Mississippi to Olive Branch, Mississippi, low-income housing. My mom went back to school to get her certificate in bookkeeping. So all the time, I'm watching this woman work. I'm watching her work. So in seeing all that, all I could think about, what I was obsessed about, was doing whatever it took, one, to make her life easier, okay, while I was younger, and then set myself up so that I could make her life easier when I was older, okay? And if it came through football, if it came through baseball, if it came through academics, if all of those were hurdles towards my success, then I was going to attack them, okay? And I was going to climb all of them. I was going to jump over all of them, because that was the only thing that I was focused on. I was extremely bright as a kid. I was National Honor Society. I was like 32nd in my class of like 400 and some people. Mr. Olive Branch High School. I did the senior news. There's a lot of things that I was able to do. And on top of that, I was a good athlete, football player, track, baseball. I did those things as well. But the thing that was never lost on me, and this is going to sound funny, is that I was chubby and I was black. I heard those things all the time, fat and black. And I'm not just talking about black. I'm talking about struck match black tone. I'm a dark skinned dude, man.
Yeah, so, we brothers.
For real, man. Thank you. Thanks, man. But those growing up in a town, like I said, that was majority white, and then being in a family that was, my mom's was a nice paper bag brown. Man, we the darkest. Me and my brother was the darkest things walking, man, and people told us about it all the time. Okay, I think that was an attempt to bring us back down to earth. People saw what we were achieving. They saw us operating in circles that, a lot of black men were not operating in, because the things that we were achieving success academically, we were achieving success on the football field, and in a town like Olive Branch, that brings you acceptance. Okay, that brings you acceptance. And so when you have that type of acceptance, at least early on, people want to bring you back down to earth, man. And my size and my skin color were easy things to attack. So those are things that still to this day, at 41 years old, I'm very sensitive. My antennas are very sensitive to those two things, because I realize until I open my mouth And until I start talking to you, until I start engaging with you, I know what people see.
You
know what
Bill,
I mean?
Man, you just hit on some very key stuff, man. And me and you, we joke around all the time. We joke around all the time about our skin color, but this is something that, and this is a topic that hasn't yet come up on this podcast. It's a topic of conversation growing up, like you said, Wesley Snipes, growing up, being a child of the 80s. When we grew up, early 80s, the epitome of beauty for Black people, whether man or woman, didn't look like us. It was it was Billy D. Williams.
It was Albie Shore.
Albie Shore.
Yeah.
Vanessa Williams, Jasmine Guy. This was the standard. And we went through those years of ridicule, of looking different and being different. And you said something, Bill, that is, man, it's so powerful. You said, before I open my mouth, before I say anything, I already know how they're perceiving me. I already know you're a big guy. We big guys, we dark guys. So automatically, it's almost like you have a chip on your shoulder where you know that intellectually I have to be ready to disprove what I already know that you assume about me. And it's interesting you said that, because I'm still that way to this day. I'm thinking it's like you can't shake knowing the thoughts that are possibly popping up in other people's minds.
Yeah, and people try to say, "Oh, Bill, man, you're thinking that way." People aren't thinking about that. They are. Okay, I got 41 years of experience to know that that's what they're thinking, and you have to understand. For me, that's my defense. And that's part of the reason why I like to read. Okay, I want to be well educated. I want to be well versed on a number of different topics, because I know you think. I'll tell you this story. Ninth grade, my geometry teacher, Miss Priscilla Jackson. Okay, I remember she told my mom, and Miss Jackson and I when I had Facebook, we were friends on Facebook. We laugh about it now. Okay, she's a white woman, and my mom went to open house, and Miss Jackson told her, Kelvin has an unbelievable math mind. You wouldn't believe that. You wouldn't know that just by looking at him.
And that was a compliment to her, though. That was a compliment
to her. Absolutely. She was trying to pay me a compliment. But I know what people see when they see me. Before I speak, before I engage, I already know how people are looking at it. Okay? My responses and the way that I carry myself, it's all in a response to that. I've been conditioned to that for, like I said, over 40 years.
One of my favorite books is a book by a gentleman named Orrin Woodward. It's called Resolve. And it talks about just some success principles and leadership principles. One of the parts that he says in the book, he talks about the actual advantage of not low self-esteem, but how when a person is too overly confident in their abilities, oftentimes it leads to complacency.
Yes.
But oftentimes when you see in success, the successful person, the successful student may have been the person who their second grade teacher told them they were stupid. And so they overcompensate by studying more. Or the successful athlete may be the one who was, Michael Jordan, cut from a team early on. And so they overcompensate by work ethic, and how oftentimes those early negative experiences turn out to be a benefit, because it causes you to react in a different way, to overcompensate and to have that chip on your shoulder to be able to prove people wrong. Would you say that was kind of your response to some of these early thoughts from teachers and different people?
Tony, that is my intrinsic motivation. That is my fire. Yes, it was external. It came from outside. But when I heard it, it stuck to me and it fueled me. Okay, because I root for the underdog, because I still am the underdog. I mean, I think about, to be in the position that I'm in and the things that I've done. There's nobody else in my family that has gone to college on a football scholarship. Okay, there's nobody else. Okay, I don't have the last name of an uncle or a coach or in football to be able to bring me along in a profession that's very hard to get into. So it's been the things that I've accomplished has been from fuel of people who've told me that I couldn't, or that I wasn't enough, or that I wouldn't amount to much, simply because of how I look. So Yeah, those things right there. I'm with you. If you're too cocky, if it comes too easy, you're going to get lazy. Okay, you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be I's left undotted, T's left uncrossed. I had to do it all, man, because all eyes were on me. Okay, and they were already on me and assuming the worst. So I wanted to prove them wrong.
Absolutely. We've talked about Coach Ferentz. We've talked about Coach Aiken. You've also shared with me the powerful and impactful role that your mother has played in your life, your development. Who are some other people that have been influential in your development, whether they may be family members, teachers, other coaches? Who are some people that you can look back on and say, you know what, if this person gave me this piece of advice, or this person gave me this piece of encouragement when I was at a low point, just talk to me about other influential people in your life.
I tell you that it's a lot of it. I mean, my mom is obviously paramount. She's number one. She's my reason why, my motivation, the drive, all those things. But for me, Tony, growing up in a single parent home, it's been the pseudo fathers who stepped in and either told me that I was doing things right to keep it up, or vice versa. Hey, you're going down the wrong path. You need to straighten this out. And we talked about Coach Aiken. He was instrumental in getting me here to Iowa. Fred Mims, once I was no longer playing football and struggled with my identity and was struggling with school, just going to talk to him, breathing life into me and letting me know that he understood where I was coming from. And more importantly, he knew where I was going, and made me promise him that the day that I quote unquote made it or graduate, whatever he meant by made it, I don't know what he meant at that time, but it stuck with me to be able to reach back and help someone else. Those things I'll always remember. Another guy who just passed away recently, it's a guy by the name of Tom Furlong. Okay, and Tom Furlong he's no longer here. I can't give him his flowers right now, but Tom Furlong, when I got done playing football, Tom Furlong hired me to work at the hospital as a guy who delivered hospital supplies. Okay. And now that doesn't seem like a lot, but to me, he gave me an opportunity, okay, and saw something in me, not only to give me the job as a student worker, okay, but then once I graduated, he made me supervisor of the unit. Okay, Tony, I'm the only person of color in the entire unit. So I don't know what Tom saw, to hire me as a student, okay, but then to put me in charge of people who are twice my age. You can tell that didn't go over well with a lot of people who had been doing it. One, to be so young, and two, to be this black man in here who's now calling the shots. Okay, so just men like Tom Furlong, anyone who's come into my life, especially as a male, who's poured into me and offered me words of advice or words of criticism, I can't say enough about him. And right now, I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy, not just to my own son, but I have an opportunity with 20 sons in my defensive line room who I want to help them. I want to be the voice that they needed when I was their age, be the voice that I needed when I was their age.
You occupy a very interesting seat because you get a chance to see so many different student athletes come through, and you get a chance to be an observer and watch how different people take different paths, how those decisions play out long term. Can you share with me your thoughts on what are some of the commonalities of success? Because, you've been at Iowa for a long time. I always tell people all the time that I learned about success on an organizational level by going to University of Iowa. When we first got there, we were kind of the basement dwellers of the Big Ten. By the time we left, we got 2 Big Ten championships. So I got a chance to be a part of and see real time the success journey of this entire program. But as a coaching position, you got a chance to witness that, but you got a chance to see hundreds of different individuals go through that program and see some go off and go this way, some go off and go that way. What do you see as the commonality of success of the guys who came through the program, and whether they went on to do great things in the NFL or in professional or entrepreneurial world? What are some commonalities of those success traits?
I think 2 big things, and they're both plays on intelligence, okay? And I'm not talking about 2 + 2 is 4 type intelligence. I'm talking about situational intelligence and emotional intelligence. Okay, the guys that have found success have highlighted in both areas. Situational intelligence is making the right decision at the right time. Okay. And in order to do that, you have to be able to survey your surroundings, gather enough information, and be ready to make that right decision when the moment happens. Okay. Emotional intelligence, okay, is doing the right thing when you don't necessarily feel like doing it or when you feel some type of way. Okay. And the people who have mastered both the situational and the emotional intelligence, they've reached success. Okay. And that, along with grit and perseverance, okay, being able to get knocked down 7 times, stand up 8, then the ones who, again, going back to Coach Ferentz, are never too high and never too low in their reactions to things that happen to them. Always eyes forward, outlook forward, focusing on the next thing. Those are the people I think that have shown success, at least of the young men that I've interacted with. The guys who haven't, they've all succumbed to the distractions. And there's so many distractions that are out there, whether it be the social distractions of downtown Iowa City, nightlife, girls, alcohol, whether it be the distraction or the drunkenness distraction of love from people who like the fact that you play football. I tell my guys all the time, look, Hawkeye Nation, the fans, unbelievable. They are great people. They cheer for Iowa. They black and gold through and through and through. But they don't love you. They love what you do. And as long as you're doing it the way they want you to do it, you'll continue to feel that love. But the moment you step out of line, and stepping out of line could be anything. It could be dropping a ball. It could be saying something that they don't necessarily agree with on a political front. The moment you step out of line, that love is going to be gone. And there's some guys that get drunk on that, you know. But I think that stems from not having real love from home. You know, real love from a support group or a support person that's going to love them unconditionally, regardless of if they can run fast, jump high, catch whatever. They're lacking. You know, I think that people are lacking in 3 things when they come here. Okay, now this is not my thing. I got this from Aaron Campman. If you remember Aaron Campman, but I stick with this because it makes a lot of sense when he told me. Our young people, when they get here, lacking in 3 things. Number 1, they're lacking in acceptance. They're acting out because they want to be accepted. They're lacking in a sense of significance. They want to feel a part of something. And number 3, they're lacking in love. Acceptance, significance, and love are the buckets that we're trying to fill. Okay, we're trying to fill those through the game of football. Okay, through the game of football, but just to have them under you make a young man feel accepted, regardless of where he is. You're going to meet him there and tell him that it's okay to be a part of this group. You give him a role where he can feel like he's actually contributing, no matter how big or small, and then you love that man unconditionally. I think you set that young man up on a path towards success that a lot of people aren't ready for yet. But you got to address those 3 things first and foremost before you can coach.
As we're wrapping up here, I got a few more questions for you, Big Bell. What, throughout your career, what's been one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever gotten throughout your career? Again, whether it's, while you were in college, post-college, what's been a great piece of advice that you've gotten that you kind of hold on to? And the part 2 to that question is, if you had to go back and talk to the 18-year-old Kelvin Bell, what advice would you give to him? And maybe that would be the same piece of advice that you got, or maybe that would be a different piece of advice. So 2-part question. Part 1, what is the best piece of career advice? And it may not be career, it may be life advice. Just the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten. And then part 2 to that is, if you had to go back and talk to the 18-year-old you, sit you down, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, 2 things pop into mind right away. And you may have heard Coach Ferentz say this in terms of a piece of advice. It's a saying, it's a quip, but it makes a lot of sense. It's applicable in a lot of different arenas. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Okay? And what he's talking about is greed. And knowing when enough is enough. Okay? Knowing when you had your fill, okay, and being content with that. Okay? Because a lot of times we want to get, and hogs get slaughtered. Okay? There's enough to go around for everybody.
Right.
There's no reason to hoard the money, the food, the success, the whatever. There's no reason to hoard that. Okay? You know when you had your fill. And then another one is well done is better. Well done is better than well said. And I think that just stops a lot of the empty barrels make the most noise. There's so many people that want to talk this and talk that. Be a person who has things that have been done, things that have been achieved. Because when you do things, the name of this podcast is Show Your Receipts. When you do things, you have receipts. Okay.
That's right.
But there's a lot of people that want to have a lot of talk, and there's a lot of rhetoric going around. There's just not a whole lot of action behind it. Okay. Another one I've heard is, this is a funny one I heard of, is Wendy's. You want to know why Wendy's burgers are square? It's because Dave Thomas didn't believe in cutting corners. Okay. Don't be a guy who's always looking for the easy way out. Okay. The only easy way is through. You have to go through it, whether it's good times or whether it's bad times. You got to go through it. You got to do the work. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't set yourself short. You can't cut anyone else short, because over time, if you cut a little bit of corner here, you cut a little bit of corner here. Time is what reveals everything, Tom. Time will reveal your intentions, good or bad. Time will reveal the work that you've done, whether you've been cutting corners or you really been busting it. Over time, it's going to shine through. So just make sure that you're doing today's work today, and that you're not selling yourself or anybody else short. Because while you may have a small victory or small relief because you sold someone short or sold yourself short today, over time, man, you're going to miss the mark by a mile, and you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to have that guy. And all of those things is what I would tell 18-year-old Kelvin Bell. Okay. Remember, we used to talk about when we were kids. I don't know if you remember the slang hum bum. We used to do stuff on the hum bum.
Yeah, on the hum bum. Yeah.
Okay. Trying to the hum bum, that is not sustainable. When I talk about the hum bum, I'm talking about, doing things fast, doing things quick, microwaving stuff, just really not putting your full effort into anything. Because at some point in time, man, that thing that you did on the hum bum, it's going to have your name attached to it. And that's who you are. That's your work. Okay. So if you wanted to mean something, if you wanted to be meaningful, take your time, do it right. Don't cut corners. Okay. Don't cut corners, and be honest about yourself and what you see. Be honest to other people, be transparent, because, over time, like I said, you're going to be revealed anyway.
Absolutely. Man, it's just incredible talking to you, Big Bell, to see what you're accomplishing, to see you performing at such a high level. I know that the sky is the limit for you. I'm excited just to have a front row seat and to watch your progression, seeing us as, a bunch of young kids showing up at the campus, Iowa City, in the summer of 2000. And now here you are, still there, still making an impact. The foundation of this podcast is the idea that we want to highlight the success of professionals and entrepreneurs, but we also want to be able to extend the olive branch to the young people coming behind who may also aspire to accomplish what our guests are accomplishing. If we were to come across some young individual who is an aspiring coach, would it be okay if I made that connection, if I made that link, that connecting to you so you can, coach them up or give them some advice?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have the AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association. It's a convention every year. 10,000 plus coaches meet in January, whether it be Charlotte, Nashville, go down the list of places where we have it. I make it a point to, it's one thing to go there and see other coaches that are at the Power 5 level, and we can yuck it up and we can talk about this, that, and the other in the industry. But I make it a point to pour into the Kelvin Bells that I see. Because I remember when I walked into the convention center in Anaheim, California in 2008, my first coaching convention, got my little Cornell College polo on, my khakis, and I open up the door to the convention hall, and there's 10,000 other coaches in there that are trying to do the same thing that I'm doing at various levels. And the first thing that popped in my mind is, how am I going to separate myself? How am I going to distinguish myself from the rest of these guys? We're all trying to do the same thing. What am I going to do? More importantly, how am I going to do it that's going to make me unique, make me marketable, and make me stick out from the rest of these guys? So from that point right there, I just started to craft things in my own way. There's no new stuff. Everything's already been done before, okay? But how you communicate it, your little twist and your little spin that you get to get people to understand it or maybe see things from another perspective, I think that's what makes you unique. And that's what I share with those young coaches. I get to see them in person. I take down numbers. I've helped a lot of people get entry-level jobs, whether it be a GA, whether it be an internship here or there or wherever, because, again, I want to be the voice they need or I needed when I was that age. So I would love to connect. Whether my email address, Kelvin-Bell at HawkeyeFootball.com. It's really easy. My first name hyphen last name at Hawkeye Football. Feel free to reach out to me. I can't do it. I can't help guys enough, because that's the part that Fred Mims was talking about.
Yeah.
When I get there, make sure that I give back. Yeah, I want to give back. I want to help young people.
That is awesome. Bell, man, I have enjoyed this conversation, brother. I look at you as a brother from another mother. I feel like when I see, I still remember when I see the announcement that you got the defensive line, I was celebrating like I got a pay raise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, when you win, brother, it feel like I'm winning, man. So I'm just excited to see you doing your thing. I wish you all the best. I wish you guys a great season. I see things is looking up. I'm going to be in Iowa City for some games.
Come on.
Man, absolutely. Super, super proud of everything that you're doing, brother. Love you, man. Keep doing your thing, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.